Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. And today we'll start with Hang Seng, just to have a look at what's going on. And actually really not much. It's just been trading sideways for the past week or so, and also this morning didn't do much. It's still caught in this. I mean, it's rebounded. There's a little bit divergence up here. But if it can take out 21,610, then uptrend has resumed, has been confirmed. It needs to break below and close below 19,924 for downtrend to be established. On the US market, S&P 500 was unchanged Friday after a little bit of volatility. So let's have a look at what the pre-market is doing. Pre-market we are up about 0.65%, indicating we could resume uptrends unless any news is bad news coming in to say that it's lower. There is divergence on the RSI, as we can see here, and this is what you can also do. You can draw some trend lines on the RSI, see here. And currently RSI is testing its lower falling trend line. If it does break above, closes above 60 threshold and the falling trend line here, we are likely to see higher highs on the S&P 500. And for now, it seems to be in the cards with a push towards 5,900, possibly even 6,000. Nasdaq 100, 0.6% higher in Friday's session. It is 20,041 support level did hold, and currently the pre-market is indicated higher. We have the RSI back above 60 threshold, and we could push higher to test this upper rising trend line. It's not a strong resistance or anything, it's just merely a guideline, but we are keeping the bullish trend here. I'm just throwing Dow Jones in the mix this morning. We have Dow Jones that was sold off here yesterday, weaker of the rest. Actually, it's been like that the entire week last week. Key support here, 41,831. If it takes out that, well, then we could see a larger correction. But also here we are a little bit higher pre-market, so let's see if we can bounce a little bit higher. Key will be RSI can stay above 40 threshold or not. In Europe, EUROSTOXX 50 a little bit higher, and also pre-market indicator higher. We are still above the 49.07 support here. We can see that the pre-market, when you read this or watch this video, we are already trading in the market. But we are 0.8% higher here, pre-market bouncing. And I think if it takes out the little peak here, just below 5,049.89, then we could have uptrend to resume, and it will be confirmed if the RSI closes above 60 threshold. Also, the DAX index still above. I know it did close below here, but we are still holding on to the overall bullish trend. So this was merely just a minor correction. However, we do have some divergence on the RSI, indicating we are a little bit fragile in the uptrend here. But if we can get the RSI back above 60 threshold, we could see a little bit further upside potential than pre-market. We can see here on the GER40 CFD, it actually bounced higher, 0.7% as we speak. And currently the RSI is back above 60 threshold. If that's also the case at the end of the trading day, or even strengthening more, well, then we could see a push and maybe even take out the previous peak there. The Amsterdam index is after closing below the 892 support. The key thing to observe is that the RSI is still holding on above 40 threshold. So that has thrown it a little bit of a lifeline, despite we actually had a confirmed bearish trend, very short term. But Friday closed back above. So also the 200 moving average here giving some support. The key support 878 is still being we're still quite a bit above that. If we can get back above 909, well, then there's upside potential just very quickly pre-market, bouncing a little bit further. The CAC index tested Friday to 74.64, key support, and pre-market here we're also bouncing a little bit higher off that lows. The Swiss markets on the other hand, struggling a little bit, but still 12,119. Support is key, and pre-market we also up a little bit higher here. If it can get back above the 60 threshold on the RSI, we could see the Swiss market to take out 12,250, and if it does that, well, then we're looking at testing this resistance here at 12,348 once again. Euro dollar, well, still weak. The bounce didn't do much really. Now we are under pressure once again, likely to test the 107.77. Minor support is not the strongest one, but it was where we actually did have some change of trend down here. So if it takes it out once again, and if it breaks below 107.60, well, then there could be further downside potential. There is RSI divergence indicating trend exhaustion, but we need a break above and close above 108.75 to confirm that and establishing a new, at least short-term bullish trend. Euro sterling still trading sideways, and is kind of locked in here between 83 and the upper falling trend line. It needs to break above that for a push towards 84. If it takes out 83, well, then we are again looking at 82.30, which we've been talking about for quite some time. Cable not doing much. Could look like it is bouncing, but RSI negative sentiment, no divergence. There is risk down to the 128 level and the 200 moving average. It needs to get back above 131 for establishing a bullish trend. Dollar yen and all yen pairs more or less are pushing higher. Now we have dollar yen breaking above the 138.2 projection of this correction here. And we are seeing it pushing higher to test the minor resistance at 150, around 154. I think we'll see it pushing higher here in the coming days towards 155.20, 155.50, which is around the 161.8 projection. It's not really a strong resistance, so I think we'll get up there. There's maybe building up a little bit divergence here on the RSI, so it could be a little bit exhaustive, but for now, the trade is your friend. And as long as we stay above the 151.45, then there is potential higher for dollar yen. Euro yen also pushing higher after testing the 164 from the other side, and there is a potential higher. Don't really have any strong resistance until around 168. However, if it's moved back below 164, this bullish picture here could be demolished. Aussie yen, well, that is the one that is struggling a little bit at the moment. It really needs to push above 101.75. If it does, well, then there's potential higher, possibly up to 105. But that's, I think, is a little bit of a stretch, but we shouldn't rule it out, especially when we're talking about Aussie dollar a little bit later. Maybe that could help pushing it a little bit. But for now, as you can see here, it's still in this little bit slightly rising trend, but also a little bit sideways. So it can't really get its act together. I think I'll remove this one because it's a little bit disturbing and obsolete now. Sterling yen also pushing higher, very close to test resistance here at 199.5. Bullish trends and no divergence, indicating I think it's not the strongest one, so we could see a push up to the 786 retracement at 202.15. Aussie dollar, well, continuous downtrend, no divergence on the RSI, likely to push lower to test the minor support here at 65.67. I think it will break below it, especially if we can close below the cloud area here. If it takes out 65.67, well, then there's not, the strongest support is down here around 64.70 area with this cluster of supports down here, or sideways range trading. I know there was a spike down here, but still it did end up here in that region. So around 65 in the coming weeks could be seen. It really, I mean, there's a strong overhead resistance at 67.20, and for now it does look quite heavy. Dollar Canada pushing higher, reached the 139 level and the 161.8 projection and also the 1764 projection at just above 139 could still push higher. No divergence on the RSI, indicating likely higher levels on dollar Canada, and there's potential up to a 139.40.50 level. Sterling Canada still in this triangle like pattern here. Key support 178.30 and 176.80. EURUSD still fairly boring, I would say. 93.33 still holding on. It dipped a little bit below there, but that's marginal. Trying to get back into this, back above this rising trend line here, testing a couple of times. If it can do that, well, then it could test the upper falling trend line. And this is the thing with these declining or rising trend lines. They're not exact level on it, but keep an eye on them. If it takes out 93.30, well, then I think we'll break below 93 and push lower. But it is still holding on quite nicely. Let's see if it can get back above here and test the upper falling trend line. Dollar Swiss pushing higher, testing the 100 moving average. There is potential up to 87.30, 87.40.50 level, which is some strong support, resistance up there. A little bit stressed, but RSI is still positive, indicating likely higher levels. Dollar index also higher, but now it begins to look a little bit stressed. We can see RSI is not really following through here, but there's still potential up to test the 104.56, maybe even up to around 104.85 if it can get its act together. If it starts breaking back below 103.80, well, then we could see a correction unfolding. Gold, well, sideways trading, a little bit stressed on the upside. We can see there's divergence on the RSI. The RSI values are not really supporting higher levels at the moment. We could see a correction down to test the lower rising trend line here in the coming days. But again, if it takes out the previous peak there at 27.58.5, well, then we are looking at 2800. And I do have a medium-term target of 28.78 that we can adjust very quickly. We have a little bit of time here. We can see here on my target here, it's 28.78. But there's potential up to that level, despite we are seeing some divergence on the RSI, and it is quite stressed, but there is potential up to that level. On the silver, we are in a corrective phase, but we're still holding on the 38.2 retracement and the $33. If it takes out that, well, then we could see a larger correction down to around 32, but we are in a bullish trend, still potential up to 35.40. There's no divergence on the RSI, or could be slightly if we say this is by marginally below, but we are in a bullish trend, medium term and longer term on silver, so I think it will push higher in the coming weeks, despite we are probably having a little bit of correction. And today I'm throwing palladium into the mix. Palladium has broken higher, and we're switching back to the weekly chart here. As we can see, palladium that broke above resistance 11.26 last week. I did post it on Twitter, just a brief update Thursday or Friday last week. We can see here on the weekly chart how it's established a bullish trend, positive sentiment likely to push to 13.46 resistance. Struggling a little bit at the upper part of the cloud and the 100 weekly moving average, so it really needs to break above that. I think it will do it eventually. We could see a little bit of a setback here for a couple of days, and then I think we'll see it push higher. Taking out 13.46, the potential up to around 1600 level. And copper, of course, we should also talk about copper. That hasn't really done much, just basically trading sideways here for more than a week now. Still holding on above the 61.8 retracement, dipping it below a couple of times, but closed above every time. If it takes out 429, then we're looking at 420. Otherwise, I think we should see a bounce coming in and slowly trying to push higher here. There is still positive sentiment on the RSI, indicating we are likely to see it slowly starting to push higher. Also the 55 moving average and the 200 moving average coming up there, giving some support, but we have the 100 dragging it down a little bit. Crude oil is opening much lower this Monday morning here, about 4% lower on WTI, very close to testing the falling trend line here once again. If it breaks below, well, then it's resuming downtrend. We are actually already below here, so it is actually it's resuming downtrend, but it needs to be confirmed by RSI closing below 40 threshold. If it does, well, then there is potential lower, and if we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see, well, then we could be looking at 64, 65 level. The Brent crude oil also lower this morning. There seems to be bits coming in. We are still in a positive sentiment on the RSI. Could bounce if it can close this gap here from this morning here the next couple of days. Well, then we could see crude oil trying to get back above this resistance here at 75.87. If it does that, well, then there's potential. If it fails to do so, well, we are back below the cloud. We are in a bearish trend, and it just needs to close below 40 threshold on the RSI to confirm that, and it hasn't done that yet. So could be some interesting days ahead. Dutch gas is pushing higher and has been pushing higher the past week or so. Now potential up to 44.60, not the strongest resistance here. We'll see on the weekly where we are talking about 54.45. There's potential up to that. We are in a bullish trend. However, the 100 is dragging down a little bit, but we are above the cloud. And let's zoom in a little bit so we can better see it. I think there is potential up there going into the winter time. We could see a little bit of a setback here after possibly reaching 44.61. It already raced back all the way back from last year. US 10-year Treasury yields higher and is currently testing resistance here at 428.8 or 429. You can see here it actually touched it bang on. However, there is potential high, but I think we'll see a little bit of a setback. If it can close back above that 429, well, then we could see higher levels. A little bit stressed on the RSI, indicating that. So maybe a little bit of a setback, but we are in a bullish trend. On the 2-year, US 2-year, well, also pushing higher now above the 100 moving average, 100 moving daily moving average. Positive RSI, no divergence, indicating likely higher levels. We could see it push towards 425, maybe even 429 here in the coming days and weeks. The EuroBund future, well, is pushing lower this morning, opening below 132.73 support. Resuming downtrend after a little bit of a bounce off the support there, so now it's a resistance. There's not much strong support until around 131.62. I think we could test 132 here in the coming days or weeks. We have this double top scenario that is playing out, and it's confirmed, and it gives actually much lower downside potential, but I'm not quite sure we'll get all the way down there, but it looks quite heavy at the moment. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you again tomorrow.